Okay, you all are being recorded now. So last week I did Lynn came into my office and said, I've not really used Moxi Present before for a CMA. Can you run one for me real quick, see what it looks like? And we did. And she said, wow, those numbers are just about what I came up with. So I thought maybe I ought to run over a few things today. This will be kind of an advanced basic, if you will. So first, I got to share my screen. And you guys can all see now, right? You can see the MLS?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And if you have a question, just turn on your microphone and ask, because I'm not going to look for chats and raised hands and stuff when I'm doing this by myself. So let's say when you're doing a CMA, there's a couple of important dates to remember. So 6 years back in 2016 is as far back as Moxi has completely loaded the MLS. I want to explain why that's important because most people miss that. It is true that we only go back about 6 months or even 100, a little bit more if you want to for a CMA because prices change too much. But if you have a listing that was sold in the MLS from 2017 forward, it is much, much easier to do a CMA through Moxi than if it doesn't. And part of the reason is Moxi doesn't have, when you're doing a search, a whole bunch of filters that we really want to use. So just because I'm going to do a search for homes that closed just to find one that is completely different. So you can ignore this for a minute while I prepare. Come on, closed. Sold. Now, when you would be doing a CMA, and if I was looking to see if the address had been closed recently, I would just do an address search, right? Is everybody with me on that?
Yep.
That's better. So I'm going to go back on houses that sold in the first 2 weeks. See, that gives me 62,000 of September 17. Come on. Why didn't it go there? And I want to go right there. And that gives me 411. That ought to be plenty. And I'm going to sort them by price. And I'm going to pick one that's kind of in the middle just for fun. I'm going to pick 1615. No, I ain't going to do that address. I'm going to do 1700 North Sagebrush. So if I look at 1700 North Sagebrush, all I need is this MLS number, 5234, and I'm going to just highlight that so I can remember it. So the first thing you have to do is log into Moxi. Once you're in Moxi, and by the way, this is my picture from when I first started in real estate in a few years back. Go to Present. I'm doing CMAs, yeah. And once you're in Present, and it takes a minute, I know. You want to create a new presentation. I'm going to do a seller report. Now, you can do a property review, which gives you some stuff, and a buyer tour, and you can even do a non-listing presentation, sort of like if you wanted to do a PowerPoint. And the advantage is that these presentations can be viewed online without your client being right in front of you. But most of the time, you're going to do a CMA. So we're going to do it for a seller. And continue. And you have several templates you can use. I don't know where it defaults to, but if you were to save a template in here, like it would become under brokerage templates or your own templates, then you have different names that you can save them at. And the reason you would save a template is I only want to send out 5 sheets. I have a pre-list package that I want to send out that will have no information about the homes. I might have a presentation that I've saved certain sheets just for a short sale. So you can name and pick the template you want so that you don't have to go back and pick the pages you're going to use every time. And that's all this is about, is what pages you want to send your client. But we're going to do the seller default. We're going to go to create. I just leave this alone. I want to know what the dollar per square foot total finished is, whether it's upstairs, downstairs, in the basement, whatnot. Because I'm going to try to pick out properties that do something. And I'm going to call this Lynn's Learning. Thank you, Ms. Learning. Create. And it takes a second, and then a circle is going to pop up in the middle. There is a circle. And the first thing it wants you to do is define the property that you're going to search for. And here's the reason I say first, go to the MLS, and if the house has been sold since 2017, use the MLS number. Because if you want to filter out your properties, you would have to hand fill in all this information. Does it have a finished basement? How many square footage? Where is it? The county, the lot size, all of that stuff. And I don't want to do that. What I want to do is copy all of it from the MLS, which I can do right here. So going back to my MLS number, we're going to use 534764. 534764. And I'm going to copy that information over. Now let's give it a second to think. And here's what happens. It pulls in the outside picture from the last time it was listed. It brings in all of the square footage, where it's located at, Andover School, the schools, tax amounts, and everything from the last time it was listed. Now, let's say you look at this last time it was listed, and these are the remarks that the agent wrote that last time. You can change those if you want, or you can leave them. If it said something in here, call agent for details, I would probably pull it out. And I would take the time to read this, but on a quick scan, I don't have any problem with the way that's written up. It's usable for the CMA. And it would also give your client a chance to read the remarks from last time and ask them, are there any things we ought to change about for next time? Have you added something? Have you done things? So also note that it brings over the list price and the sold price from last time. You need to remember that. But I brought it all over from the MLS, and I didn't have to type all that crap out. So now Moxi's going out, and it's trying to find listings that have had activity, in the last 6 months that are coming close to what ought to fit to this property. And you can see we don't have a lot. We've got a few. But wait, there's more. Okay. So if I scan all these and I say, okay, these look very close to what I think it should be around, I can choose them all. And I think, this one, it's got 3,860 square foot. I forget how many are subject to. Oh, that is our subject. This one's got 4,500. That's quite a bit more, but it'll do dollar per square foot. This is right on the money. This one is a little bit more, but again, I need something to compare with. So I'm going to pick those. Now, Savannah's a little bit of a difficult neighborhood because it's right in the middle of nothing, okay? But those are the four that Moxi presented to me, and I said, okay, I'm going to use those. And once I click on them over here, they are saved in memory as saying, yep, those are the ones I want to use. But this is a good one in a different way in that I want more than 4 properties. So if I come up here to filters, you see that I have, I'm sorry, you start to say something? I've got sold last 6 months. Maybe I want to go back a year. Let's just take what it auto-filled with and push apply. And it still brought up just those properties. Isn't that funky? Well, I know, but see, there's a whole lot more that I'm not seeing something that I should be able to see, which is to remove, oh, I know what it was. Down here, where's the remove filters?
Reset filters is down below here.
Reset filters right there.
Reset filters, there it is. Okay, so what we're going to do now, thank you, Sherry. What we're going to do by hitting reset filters is it's going to bring up all the properties that have sold in the last 6 months on the map. And I can go reset to the subject property values, which is what Moxi pulled up, or we can just go to anything, which is nothing. And we bring up a lot more properties. A whole lot more property. But again, as I said, Savannah is kind of a property of itself. So what I'm going to do is zoom right in on that neighborhood. And I'm going to exclude just about anything else. And I want to look at some of these and say, why did Moxi take them out? So if I look at this one, it was 737,000. And if I pull it up, it brings in the price, how many bedrooms, the number of square footage and everything. Well, I want to include that one. And all I have to do to include it is push that plus sign. Now that I want to see this one over here that was 615. And everything's moving slowly today. And see, it's already chosen. Thank you, because it's got a check mark on it. And I can come over to hit this one and see why that one is there. And maybe it's out of the price range. Well, it's got about the same square footage. It has a 3-car garage. It might be newer, but because Savannah is kind of a tight neighborhood, I'm going to go ahead and check it. Now, if I want to look at it over here and get all the details, I can. So that's 1607 Greystone. If I want to look at all the details on the property to maybe eliminate it or include it, I can scan through it here. But again, because what I know about Savannah, I'm just going to pick it. And I'm going to say, I now have enough properties. I may say, because that one is so far out of the price range of the others, I want to remove it. Okay, then Lynn said, by learning Lynn says it's included, it's not far out. So I'm going to include it. So again, going with the map search only, I brought up several. And we can see the ones I checked off over here because the picture has a check on it. And the only ones I haven't included now are this one at 521. It's about the same square footage. I'm going to include it. And this one might be the outlier on the price. I don't know what it looks like inside. But just because it's so much different on price, I'm going to click on details. and see what it shows on for me. Come on, load, 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 load. And one of the things you'll notice, again, like on the MLS, if you filtered out and you had something that was way out of the what you thought was the norm, you can look at all the pictures in here and see if the inside was really tore up. Or for what reason, you know, the backyard is good. We have floor plan, that's nice. But the interior doesn't look too bad. It's a little dated. And you can say, you know, I don't want to include that one because it's just an outlier on price. Go for it. If you think the pictures live up to where you want to be, then you can include it. Does everybody understand what I'm doing about deciding I want to include properties or not? And once I'm on the detail page, I can say, go ahead and include it there as well. And I'm going to close this. And so by zooming in on just my neighborhood, I was able to go through and decide on all of them. And I'm going to pick the Greystone and continue. So to me, you have a couple of decisions you can do. You can let Moxi help you pick the properties. You could decide you don't want to do this, and you could type in all the MLS numbers from the MLS, but it does a fairly decent job. And one of the things that I want to look at, just because, if I pull up the property in the MLS and I go to RPR, it's going to give me an AVM in a minute. Does everybody know how to get to RPR? Huh?
Yes,
Yes, okay.
I do.
I've never used RPR to do comps.
Well, the reason I'm suggesting you do is this right here. Ignore this stuff because that's old. This is the Realtor's Automated Value Machine, basically. And it's saying that the house is worth, in its humble opinion, $643,000. And they've got 5 stars of confidence with that AVM. Now, I can tell you that Brenda uses RPR more religiously than anything. I think all tools are as good as the guy who's operating it. I swing a hammer better than some. There are some that swing hammers better than me. Either way, it's a tool. And I can see that according to the RVM and RPR, this is the price. RVM has adjusted down 20,000 in the last month. So it's following the trends. And I at least have a basis for which I can check my Moxi prices with. That's all I'm doing here. So with that there, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to look at these properties. I see the prices, and the biggest outlier is the 360 because it sold in 2017. That's my subject property. Everything else is going to be sold within the last 6 months. And again, I can scan these. I can see the sold date. I can go back and decide if I want to change it. And there's one thing I'm never going to suggest you do, but if you want to, you can come in here and edit and adjust the property. I don't think most of us are smart enough to know what a appraiser does necessarily. I don't know that we know what a fireplace is worth or 4 bedrooms over 5 or things like that. We can guess some, but I'd rather point out the differences to my client than me guessing what that amount is. But if you want to, you could type in here, this car only has a 2-car garage, this house, so I'm going to add $10,000 to the price. You understand? Again, I don't suggest you do it, but it's possible. But if we've already gone through our subject properties, which we pretty much have, I'm not really feeling the need to do much in here, except that you could still go down and say, you know, 730, 7, 6, 6. I think I'm going to get rid of this 400 and this 400 just because they're kind of outliers to what RPR also says it should be. So I'm going to get rid of that one. And I'm going to get rid of the other 400.
That's. But, you know, private, it's underpriced.
Well, for 2 days, it's got 3,600 square feet, 6 bedrooms, 3 baths, but I don't know how old it is either. I could look, but I just want to pull it out because I think for some reason that sounds really low to me and I just don't want to use it. So once I do that, and I can go back and add more listings, I've got mine up here. I'm going to push continue. Now, this is probably the part that screws everybody up. This 360,000 is what Moxi said the house sold for 6 years ago. That's not what we want to use as our estimated value. In fact, the pricing stats say the average home price sold for $655, and Moxi says just based on square footage alone, this house should be $683. And let's go over to RPR, which said $643. Not bad. Now I am going to set my price right here. I think I'm going to get closer to $650. Just because RPR is a little bit lower and because this is the average price in the neighborhood. So I can type in 650, 650123 as the value, but I'm also going to tell you, I never set a flat value for houses. I like to do a percentage or a range. So see this button right below here that says create range. I'm going to go 3%. And that takes me from 630 to 669. I just threw it out there because it sounds reasonable to me. You can pick 5 if you want, but I think the range goes a little far out there. And then I can apply this. Is everybody with me on coming with price? Do you feel comfortable with what we've come up with just based on what RPR said? And I can tell you can compare your own prices, but in that range, you're probably going to be very close to whatever you could get to. Now,
Can I ask a question?
beg pardon?
May I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
Is RPR represented in this final presentation anywhere?
Nope.
Okay,
If you want to take it, you can print it out from RPR and put it in, but it is not.
okay. Just wanted to know.
And you can also write remarks in here based on amenities.
Condition in the RPR. You can note there that you also included the RPR
Absolutely.
valuation monsters number.
Believe.
That was one of my specific questions because I haven't used RPR for that. And I kept wondering what would be a good number to put in for that because it was only pulling in the old number. So that's very helpful, Greg.
And so the little RPR button is the 3, you can hover over it. But what I like is it opens up RPR directly to the property that you're looking at. And I like that RVM. And if you want to get more details than that, you can. You look at the RVM year over year change is 32%. So I'm glad it's come down some. And it may still be high, but that gives you, to me, a measurement against Moxi's coming up with to see if you're on track. Microphone.
I thought I saw a price range on RPR.
May have one.
But that doesn't.
Yep, right here, 618 to 669. And we are certainly within that.
That's exactly where we are.
So for me, I like that I am taking the numbers and the properties that I chose, and I'm now measuring it against machine learning, if you will. You had a question, Sherry?
No, you
Okay.
touched base on it. Thank you.
You bet. So let's go back to Moxi for a second. If we're happy with everything here, and the reason I say go to Moxi to do this rather than other ways is you get to make a presentation that is beautiful to your client, and they can even see online all they want. So I'm going to push continue. Now, this is the next area that is going to confuse you to all get out. So I want to make sure I take my time here. Over on the left-hand side, I have more pages than you'll ever possibly use. Having said that, you can also create your own. But let's go through just a couple. I only need one cover page. So I'm going to get rid of that one. If I want to see what the cover page looks like that I'm not showing up there, I can click on it and it pulls up. But I kind of like having the picture of the property if it's available. So I'm going to get rid of that page. I want my agent profile, but as I start looking at some of these other ones, I may want to trim this way down so my client gets an online presentation that's really quick and easy. So let's get rid of page. They don't need page. They do need the property summary, the listing overview, location. That's all has to do with that kind of property specific thing. I would never ever do a net proceeds here. I don't care about strategy for this client. I'm just going to tell them I'm taking great pictures. I don't need to send them the pictures. I might leave the warranty in it just so I'll have something to talk about. Yes,
So
Lynn?
is this what you present as a listing presentation or a pre-listing?
You can do it both ways.
Because the fluff that you're taking out, I send as a pre-listing. 'cause
Exactly.
They don't care about that real, I mean,
Right.
a little bit.
So you
Okay.
could, so what I'm doing now is presentation. If I do a one-step listing presentation for what Lynn's talking about, if she was doing a pre-listing, you could do this exact same thing, go through the pages that you want to save just for your pre-listing. And at the bottom, we're going to save it. So we still want those days on market, pricing analysis. I want the home warranty. I don't need the power. The negotiation and closing page, just so you know what it looks like, talks about how we negotiate and close. Well, again, that would be pre-listing. Social ads. I don't think I need to leave that in there. Text BHGRE, that's kind of cool because it tells people that folks can drive up and find out about the property. They don't care about syndication. Staging and curb appeal, again, would be pre-listing. This is not an auction property. I don't need to give, more marketing fluff. Last page is more or less, a reminder at the end of your listing presentation to ask for the listing. What a lot of people do is get down to the bottom and they say, how's that sound? Which is different than, would you like to list your home? So I like this last page, but I don't need the 360. The showing service, that's really something I want in pre-listing or once I get it listing. I don't care about BHG moves, and I don't care about pinpoint for this listing. So now I've got just a much fewer pages, and I'm going to save it as a template. And I'm going to call it standard listing packet. And what that means now is, remember at the front where I could choose a template, and we'll look at it again. I can now say something that I only want these pages in my standard listing packet. I have to move something here so I can see it. And I'm going to save it. So the next time I get in here, if I know it's a standard listing, I don't have to go through all the pages again. I already got them there. And if I want to add a page in, I can. I can go back and say, I want to add some page. So I could go here, add a page, add from the library. Well, there's all the pages that are in the library. So I can add anything back in now. Got it? I'm not going to even talk about how you do your own page at this point because I don't want to get there. But this is now my listing presentation. And I can scroll through all the pages, but what I really want to know now, it's finished, it's complete. How do I deliver it to the client? I can email it. And I can say send presentation to Lynn. And if they're in my contacts, it pulls them up. The greeting is Dear Lynn, and I'm going to say, hey, these are some quick numbers. Call me and we'll go over. And it's going to send them a link. And it sends yourself a link because I want a copy of it to this presentation. Now, if you want to view, you can click on the link in the email, or you can click right up here to view. And I want the web view. So what your client's going to get is a link that they click on that says this, and it says scroll down. So there's a picture of the house with your contact right in the middle. Here's more about you because you filled it out or done some things.
I thought you had a bow on the top of your head, but it was your glasses.
It was my glasses, sorry. Here's the property summary about this house in Savannah, which will also give them a chance to go over. So let's say, for example, the guy listed it last put Martin School, and Martin School has since burned down. This would be a good idea for us to know to put a new school in it.
They
And
didn't
again,
rebuild it.
the tax years are pulling up from the last MLS date. So that tax is going to be off because it was 2016. We come to here and they get a live map of the properties. And along with it up here, they get little homes that they can hover over and say, oh, I know that home. It's just down the street. And it highlights on the map. If I click on it, it brings up that home in a close-in with photos, with all the little stuff about it, what it's sold for, and so on. Okay, let's see. I think I close it right here. And by the way, if with the live link, if there's something that's active that goes pending, it updates here. If something goes from pending to sold, it updates here. It won't add back in new actives because you haven't chosen any new actives, but it will update the status of the listings that you have presented to your client, which is why I like the live link. Here are our properties going down, the comparables, what the prices for each was. Here's a side-by-side representation with all of the items going across. Now, it's a little hard to see on this screen because of the way it's laid out, but you can start seeing how many bedrooms. Well, this one only has 3. That could account for price change. It's also smaller. And then we can start saying, well, what year was it built? Okay, we've got various. Our home was built in 96. This one was built in 96, and so on. So you see how you can start going side by side with all the items in the proper place. And then we go to the next page, which is a status comparison. And it basically groups houses in the subject, what's active. If there were pendings, they would be here and sold. Here's a home average price. The average home has 4.5 baths, or 4.5 beds, 3.5 baths, 4,000 square feet, and so on. Average dollar per square foot. And then it's got the ranges. I like having the average and the median in there, although in this case, they're very close to the same. Price and day on market. Well, this property took 32 days to sell, and it looks like it's very close, if not the highest price. But the rest of these are down in the 600s, and they sold pretty quickly. And this gives you a chance to go over days on market with your client. Price versus size. And obviously, you know, some of the square footage may not always be the highest price. Here's one at 4,500 that sold for 615, but it could be the finish, how old, and so on. Pricing analysis. Any remarks, you know, I wrote those remarks in based on amenities and so on. Price based on average sales, 655. Price per square foot. Price based on square footage of subject property, 683. And you can go back and adjust all these anytime you want. Before you send it, yeah.
Yes, definitely.
So here's the text BHGRE thing. There's the last page. Now that's the presentation that your client would get. And I need to see which one we're at up here, because.
Can I make a comment on that?
Yes, ma'am.
So when I send this out to my clients, there's a checkbox that says, include a printer friendly version.
Mhm.
If you click that, when you send it, it'll show you like a little green button that says view seller presentation, which is the web presentation. And then below it, there's just a little line that says I've added a print friendly version, which is basically the PDF version. So when I send that to my clients, I let them know that if they click on the view seller presentation button, it's an interactive web-based, which
Right.
is much better for viewing on the computer. And then I tell them if they click the print friendly version, it's PDF, because sometimes people, they get excited and they want to see it. And then they look at it from their phone and they're like, this this web-based one is so difficult. So I try to put that on there and let them know, like, hey, if you're just looking at it from your phone or maybe a tablet, it might be easier to click that and look at the PDF versus on the computer. But I kind of give them the information about both.
Sure.
And
So let me cover that just a second. Where it
Okay.
says view here, you notice I have web view and print portrait. If I click on print portrait, it's the exact same presentation, but it's laid out on an 8.5 by 11 PDF for print version.
Right, but he was saying that all you had to do, you could send the web.
That's true. So bear with me.
Oh, okay.
I'll get there. So if you have a client that you know absolutely doesn't have the internet, you can print one out. If you don't like the internet version, you want to sit on it in front of a client with a book, you can print it out. Or as she's saying, when I get ready to send it, I can send both versions to them, the print version and or the internet version, so they can have it both. But you can also see that the print version takes longer to generate. And if you're like me, I'm not very patient with such things. So that's just my 2 bits on printing. But I do agree with Erica a lot. It's nice to give your clients the choice. Well, as soon as this comes up, if I go to send PDF portrait version 2, they get both. Okay. But again, we're still waiting for it to fully load because there's a lot of information in there. Hence why I kind of like the web version for most people. Doesn't mean you can't print a book, but it's kind of cool that you have both and the presentation is the same on either one. The view is a little bit different, but all the pages are the same, the same information and so on.
started doing that because I had a client complaining that she was traveling when I sent it to her, and she was like, I can't make heads or tails from this from my phone. So I just found it's easier to give them those brief instructions at the beginning, like, hey, click whichever one works for you
Right.
based on what device you're using. And then that way they also know, like, hey, I'm going to get on the computer and I'm going to look at this and see how it's interactive. And as things change, then I can, see more details. But
But
rather than
and while
frustrating my
I
customers.
and while I agree with you, the PDF isn't real easy to view on a phone either because they're 8.5 by 11 pages. You'll have to zoom in and whatnot, but you are correct. This is easier to read on a phone than it would be the interactive one, which you have to do some other things with. The point is you can do both. And a lot of programs don't do both. You get a really nice book or you don't get a presentation or vice versa. Okay, so I'm going to close the PDF version. And that is really it. There's a few things you could change if you wanted to. You could change the name. You could decide you want the total finished square foot instead of the total. You could change that. You can create quick flyers. You can share with another agent. So let's say Lynn did one, but she wants to share it with April. You could do a co-presenter that way. But overall, you're not going to deal with that much and you're done. And if we go back home now, we're back to, here's Lynn's learning. And it keeps a record of all the ones that you've done. If you want to resend it from here, you could click this, share, or email, and it brings up that email again. If you want to edit it because you think there's new listings, you click on the pencil. And it takes you right from the beginning, but you don't have to do all the stuff over again. It's already got from last time, I believe. So then I could say, oh, I do want to add that listing in now. Okay. So we've been at this close to an hour. I think I covered it a little slower this time, so maybe people can catch on. Are there questions that you have currently about this?
Nope, good refresher here.
Okay. Microphone.
I think the pages are very bland.
Thank you. I worked hard on those. I only have so much control on it. And there was and trying to make it to where it can be both internet and print friendly is a lot harder than you think.
Can we make suggestions on those corporate pages at
Yes.
all?
Yes, or
what-
you can take the changes, the pages, copy them and edit them.
Well, mine was that I did the CMA for the distinctive listing a couple weeks ago. And some of the pages that show up in there are the ones that are more of the green and white based ones that are in the regular listing versus the gray and white fancier looking ones. So it just makes it look a little choppier when you're having those. And
Well,
either
that was probably me figuring out I didn't want to see. I went through all this at the very beginning, like the Broker Bay thing. I created that page and shared it with everybody because nobody, we don't know who other showing services are across the United States. I took other pages that they had and recreated them because I didn't think it was localized enough. So it's probably me that needs to take those green pages and turn them into black ones. And I've just been kind of tied up as lately. But if you want to send me what your suggestions are, I'll certainly look at it.
Okay.
Okay, you just said that I could change them. But if I do make the changes, will they still be mobile friendly and computer friendly, or will the
And
changes screw 'em
There's
up?
the trick. And I'm not going to show you how to create a page right now because it's a little bit, that's a half hour on its own.
Yeah, I don't.
But one of the things when you're creating a page is it says, would you like to, if you've got a PDF, it says, would you like to make this a web version? And you can one button, it'll take it. It may not look the way you want it to, but it'll at least start it. And it goes the other way. If you create a web page, it says, would you like to make this a PDF version? So it will make it. It gives you the button and the hints to do it. But having been through that experience, it's not just drop dead easy. You got to spend some time in it. Microphone.
There were documents that got deleted from the library. How do you get those back in? How do you pull them back in?
When you're inside a presentation, and I'm going to click on the pencil so I can edit this one, I can go right to pages. And currently I have 14 pages.
And I understand that, but I'm saying like when you go into the library to pull things back in and out, if it was deleted from the library, or is there,
You
'Cause I
have to
think-
come here and look at add a page. And then you can add it from the library.
but if you go to the library and that document's not there because it's been deleted, how do you
It
get
is in the
back?
library.
Okay.
That's where they go when they are deleted. So report pages are 13. My pages that I've created are 2. The brokerage has 183 pages that I can choose from.
Wow.
Like I said, I did some serious work on this. Right. Those are held in the library. They cannot be deleted. They are always there. If you create a page and put it in your library, you have permission to delete them from your library. You can't delete them from my library. The 3 dots are where you would do something. So like I could print, it's in the print portrait, or let's see, are they all print portrait? Probably, because we're in the web view. And if you want to see what it looks like, you can click on it and it shows it. And then you can do things with them. That's the web view. This is a print view. Okay. Any more questions? Then I'm going to stop sharing my page. I'm going to stop the recording.